Hello everyone and welcome to EMTERIA Explains. This is Gerrit and in today's video we're going to talk about the Android architecture. Let's jump right in. On the right side you can see the Android architecture with all its layers, starting with the Linux kernel at the bottom. That's right, Linux is basically inside Android. The second layer above the kernel is called hardware abstraction layer. After that you've got the Android system services with a media server and a system server. On top of that, you find the binary IPC Proxies, and on top of all, there is the application framework. Of course, you've got applications on top, but this is technically not part of Android OS architecture. Benefits of the architecture are clear. It's very easy and faster to access functionality in Android compared to other operating systems. This is partly because it's standardized and a lot of the complexity is abstracted by the architecture itself. Moreover, the architecture is very well documented by Google. A huge benefit that we at EMTERIA also value is that everyone in any company out there can build his or her own version of Android. Let's talk about the bottom layer, the Linux kernel. It includes all the drivers you need in order to build your embedded product. For example, it could include a driver for a camera, a microphone, Wi-Fi, or other connectivity modules. To develop drivers for Android is very comparable to developing drivers for Linux. You just need to do minor adjustments here. And the kernel is usually built by the hardware vendor as it's very hardware specific. Another side note here, there are long-term supported versions available from the Linux community, which is useful for products with longer life cycles. On top of the Linux kernel, you've got the HAL, or hardware abstraction layer. That's a generic interface to access all the drivers. It enables Android to be very agnostic about lower level implementations, meaning you could develop the upper part without caring about the lower part of Android. It's also implemented by the hardware vendor as it's also very hardware specific. Technically, HAL modules are stored as shared libraries, so every part of Android OS can access them. Next, you've got the Android system services. Those are focused modules that can be utilized by developers in their Android applications. All modules perform certain tasks, like playing media or pushing notifications, to name just two examples. Also, it enables developers to have a standardized access to the underlying hardware. The next layer is the binary IPC Proxies. IPC stands for Inter-Process Communication, and that's what this layer is doing. It allows the application framework, which comes on top, to cross process boundaries and access the system services independently. You can consider it an abstraction layer for the system services, very similar to the hardware abstraction layer. Last but not least, you've got the application framework, one of the most important components, as it's providing a framework for developing apps. Everything a developer could use to create an app is part of this framework. For example, there's a certain piece of code available that allows you to take a picture. It's making a developer's life very easy compared to other operating systems. Besides that, it includes APIs that can map you directly down to the HAL so you can access hardware even more easily. At this point, you may ask yourself, what is EMTERIA actually adding to the Android architecture? So, we're adding things on certain levels, starting with applications that we put on top of the application framework. For example, over-the-air update capabilities, remote management capabilities, a kiosk mode, an app auto start, and many more. Besides that, we have an own system service that's handling the license data. Also, we add HAL modules in order to make Android run on certain hardware in the first place. And for the Raspberry Pi, we even built the Linux kernel ourselves. In general, you could say that EMTERIA is only adding to the Android open source project, but not changing it. Most importantly to know, EMTERIA actually provides the possibility to customize and update all of the layers of the Android architecture individually and according to the use case. This feature allows solution providers and OEMs to use Android in their commercial products. Please visit EMTERIA.com for more information and stay tuned for further videos on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day. Goodbye.